Origin Just and this is England, the Broad Street Pump. You know nothing, Jon Snow, Extra History Part 1 by the channel Extra Credits. Yes, we're back with Extra Credits. I love this channel. I've seen quite a few videos from this channel. I've got quite a few series. Admiral Yi, Bismarck, right? Many great series from Extra Credits. So this is something about the Broad Street Pump. I don't know what this is about. Is there a description? No, I don't see it. Alright. Yeah, there is a Johnson. Okay, but I'm just gonna watch the video. So yeah, Extra Credits is a great channel. I like reacting to this channel. I mean, obviously there are lots of people that say sometimes they get information wrong, or sometimes they're biased. But I don't know, man. It's not overwhelming comments. I don't know what to think of that. So far, the videos are really epic, right? Really greatly made, I guess. The quality is awesome. So let's watch it.
The noxious vapors that cause disease are known as miasma. The miasma spreads through the air,
Miasma.
and as it is breathed in, the human being becomes possessed of sickness.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
It's a thumb rule that whenever somebody screams like that, you know nothing, right? You're wrong, you know nothing, I'm the right. It's usually that's the guy who's wrong. Otherwise you won't be
Jon
screaming
Snow,
like that.
yes, really, was no lord's son. He was born to a coal yard worker in one of the poorest neighborhoods of York. It was 1813. Napoleon had just retreated from Russia, and the Industrial Revolution in England was in full swing. Young Snow's mind outpaced his setting. He was a perspicacious youth, always curious and inquisitive, always digging into whatever he found. His mother noticed her child's perpetually active mind and swore to herself that he would be no coal hand. She took a small inheritance that she had come into and paid to send him to school. He took to schooling like nothing else. By the time he was 14, he was apprenticed to a doctor in Newcastle, and it was here that he would first meet the specter that would haunt the rest of his life: cholera. You see, cholera had its roots in India, but with the increase in trade and transport in the 19th century, it crept its way up to Russia, then crawled westward through Europe, first making its way to London and then to Newcastle in 1831. But so many...
Sorry, but cholera originated from India. Didn't know that. Or that's where I guess the last record is from. Yeah, cholera, as far as I remember, it's just if the things are not sanitary, I guess, the contaminated water and things like that, right? That's how cholera spreads, right? I'm pretty sure.
Many were struck so fast by the disease that the doctor who Snow was apprenticed to was overloaded. And so it was at the age of 18 that Jon Snow was sent alone into the horror of the coal slums to treat the coal workers dying of this disease. And make no mistake, cholera is one of the...
Imagine that, coal slums, right? I mean, we've seen the story of Industrial Revolution around that time, how people's conditions are. I mean, whenever there's a TV show or a movie about London or whichever place around that time where there is factories, coal, smoke everywhere, you see this, really bad condition people where sanitary is not their top thought because of how the conditions are. Constant, blackened face here and there because of the coal and, because of working in industry. It's pretty understandable that around that time, if cholera comes there, it would just thrive, right? Because of the fucking condition.
Most terrifying diseases out there. It doesn't cause the unimaginable mortality rate of the plague, smallpox, or even some strains of influenza, but it's a horrific disease to contract. A disease whose horror is in how it manifests, how it takes over a person's body. It is swift and utterly wretched. Cholera can take a healthy person and leave them a husk overnight, and its onset is sudden. A person can be walking down the street, and then all of a sudden they'll grab their stomach and fall to the ground, spewing vomit and diarrhea. They'll continue to expel diarrhea at up to 20 liters a day until their skin becomes turgid and their blood turns to sludge, becoming too dehydrated and thick to circulate due to how much fluid the person's lost. Then the organs shut down one by one, and the person dies not directly because of an action of the disease, but because they've lost so much fluid that their body can no longer form the plasma it needs to keep itself alive. And all the things Jon Snow had learned...
That is the extent of the... You mean that, the disease doesn't directly kill him, but that is the extent of the disease, right? Losing that much fluid. But holy shit. I mean, yeah, I can see that how gross and fucked up this disease would be. Yeah, there are more deadlier diseases, but, this kind of shit happening, your last moments, you constantly vomit and constantly basically diarrhea. Obviously, when you start to get dehydrated, it gets worse, right? Your skin becomes worse and everything becomes worse. God damn.
as an apprentice, achieved nothing. From house to house he'd walk, trying to apply every technique known to medicine at the time to treat the sick. Bleeding, opium, strong herbs to keep off the miasma. All of these things had no effect, and patient after patient died. Even when he tried giving them water, no matter how much water he gave them, they'd appear better for a few short hours, then they would soon sink back down to torpor, and finally death. So
Yeah, I guess around this time they probably didn't know about the sodium, right? Like water alone will not do anything.
despite his training, one by one as he made his rounds, he left his patients' blue-pale corpses behind. His idea to rehydrate them was correct, but the medical community was only just beginning to understand that the excessive diarrhea not only caused a loss of water, but a loss of sodium as well, which is a key component of blood plasma. And it wouldn't be until the 20th century that the major breakthrough was made, when it was discovered that drinking glucose would help a cholera-ravaged intestinal system take up the saline it so desperately needed. And so Jon
Simple
Snow's
glucose
patients
does that.
died.
Huh.
But as an
Man, that's
apprentice,
just
he
fucked
kept
up, right? Whenever the answer is so simple like that, all the people who died, people like Snow basically just banging their head against the wall, trying to figure it out, trying to save life. And later on realize, oh, wait a minute, glucose would have solved everything. Like, what the fuck?
meticulous journals with his observations and theories. He had seen that coal workers would often be struck down by cholera deep in the coal pits, far from the graveyards, swamps, or sewage pools that the infectious miasma was thought to seep from. So he hypothesized that there must be something else going on. He didn't know exactly what, but he tried to express to local doctors that rather than miasma, there was something that could persist in water and be transmitted from person to person that caused disease. And they all told him, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." And so, as the cholera epidemic eventually passed, as mysteriously as it had come, Jon Snow moved on to other work.
He's the only
He
one who
bounced
knows something,
between
apparently.
apprenticing for a few other doctors, until in 1836, he went to London to begin his formal education in medicine. And he was a man who loved education. In 1 year, he completed the schooling necessary to get a license as a general practitioner. Then he got his apothecary's license. Then he received a bachelor's and a doctorate in medicine, which apparently wasn't a requirement for practicing medicine at the time.
Wait a minute, the year changed. What the in 1 year? How the fuck he did he did that all shit in 1 year?
And finally, he qualified to join the Royal College
Even
of
the same year.
Surgeons, which is
Oh,
about as
fuck.
rad a doctor thing as you could do in those days. During this period, John began doing serious study on anesthesia. You see, before Snow, most doctors of the day would just pour some chloroform on a rag and toss it over their patient's face. Nighty-night, see you in a few hours, if you're lucky. But Snow began to scientifically
I'm surprised they didn't punch them, right? Or take a baseball bat. Just want them unconscious anyway necessary.
test dosages and assess what mixtures at what times were the most effective. His work revolutionized anesthesiology. In fact, his work was so acclaimed, he even twice anesthetized the Queen herself. And the medical community finally said, "You know something, Jon Snow." But he had never forgotten cholera. That's
Yeah, see, specificness is what make modern medicine, I guess, modern, right? Doctors of, before that obviously used medicine known then, but it was always like, put chloroform on the rag and just, I guess, put that on the face. It always felt like a middle ground between proper chemical-based modern medicine and, I guess, what is the alternative? Some herbal medicine, whatever. It always felt like that. But what he did here, find the exact amount, really accurate amount, what is the perfect amount you need for anesthesia. This is the modern medicine, basically. He was the first to do it, I guess. At least for
that had been
anesthesia.
burned into him in his youth. And in 1848, when John was 35, cholera returned to haunt London. This time, he was determined not to let it win. He knew cholera wasn't just the result of bad air, and he was determined to prove it. He reached out to all of his connections in the medical community and tracked down the first case of the new outbreak, a sailor named John Harnold.
Well, if it were bad air and air was the reason, won't the majority of people would have gotten cholera if it was just because of the air, right? Because, come on, breathing air is much easier, and places were really congested in a way in cities like London, especially industrial areas and places.
He had a lead. He went and immediately talked to the physician who treated Mr. Harnold, only to find out that he had treated another man in the exact same room Mr. Harnold rented 8 days after Mr. Harnold died. The case was afoot. John suspected contagion, perhaps from soiled bed linens that had gone unwashed after the first death. Not miasma from some poison floating in the air. No, this disease was transferred from one man to another. He was sure of it. He just needed proof. Cases began to pop up all over London, and he raced from one lead to the next, interviewing patients and physicians to see if he could draw the link. He was told by one person after another that the pain started in their intestines, which led him to believe that the disease must be caused by something they ingested rather than something they inhaled. Otherwise, wouldn't the disease start in the nose or the throat or the lungs? So, obviously not all of his reasoning was perfect, but it did lead him down the right path in this case. He theorized that the diarrhea caused by cholera might not only be a symptom, but also have the
Why would a virus jump care about how you basically they would go for what is the easiest thing for them, right? It jumps a virus. It's not like if you inhale, your nose is the first thing, or if it's a intestine, it must be, you know, something that you ingested. No, that's a. But I guess, you know, he shot something in the dark and it worked, I guess.
the disease was spread. Now, because the term germs was frowned upon by many in the medical profession at the time, he started writing about how cholera was caused by a self-multiplying poison found in the water contaminated by fecal matter. He did a case study. He found a street where, on one side, all the waste poured out by the residents flowed toward the well they got their drinking water from, whereas on the other side, the waste flowed away from their well. He surveyed all those living on either side of the street. On the side where the well water mixed with the sewage, almost all...
Wait a minute, what the fuck? Sewage water mixed with well water? Oh, right, we're finding disease. Why the fuck is that a thing in the first place? Like, wouldn't be okay? I guess around this time people didn't have luxury to choose to begin with. That's a well. You want to drink or you want to, I guess, you know. That is so fucked up, man. I mean, every time I hear stories like this, it's just like, yeah, we take our modern world, we take it for granted, don't we? I guess people didn't even have the option, or like, maybe let's not drink water that doesn't have sewage water mixed in it.
All of the inhabitants were laid low. On the other side of the street, only one person succumbed to cholera. He had it. He had his proof. He wrote furiously, detailing it all out, and then raced to the presses. He'd done it! His pamphlet circulated the city. The most learned minds of the day heard what he'd discovered. And they said, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." Join us next time as Jon Snow goes full statistical Sherlock Holmes to show that cholera is spread through the water, and invents the science of epidemiology in the process.
Oh, alright. Yeah, Jon Snow, you fucking got all the 1,000,000 degrees in 1 year, and we are the one who basically, you know, helped you get those degrees. We were your mentors, but yeah, you know nothing, you know, about any of this, Jon Snow. That just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, clearly he went to school, colleges, got degrees after degrees, PhD in God knows what. He probably had, you know, major named medical practitioners as a, I don't know, mentors or something. Why are those people not believing him? Like, you're the one who taught me, man. The fuck? Even those are people like, you know nothing. Every time there's a story where one guy is just bitching about screaming, actually doing something, and people are just saying, you know nothing. And look, if he was some kind of a fucking rookie, just came out of the blue and claiming this thing, understandable. But he's a known figure now, right? He revolutionized anesthesia, like, you know, the video said. He has all these degrees. When somebody like that comes and say, like, I checked all this, I took all these different measurements, right? I did all this kind of studies, and this is what it says. You don't just say you know nothing. Do you have any other alternative theory? You don't. Why the fuck are you saying you know nothing? At least he has something rather than you. You're just bitching like how air is contaminated. That's it. It's miasma. That's your best theory. Alright, people. I didn't see that this coming. Like, this video is about cholera, but alright. England, the Broad Street. What does pump has to do with anything? Broad Street pump? Does he have to do some water pump? Like, he did something to water pump so it didn't got, you know, spread as much? I don't know. But yeah, we'll see that. How many parts does it have? Well, usually it's 3 or 4 parts. Or 4 parts is usual from this channel. So yeah. Alright, I'll see you next time.